Chapter 1. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the origin of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of myriad things. Thus, constantly without desire, one observes its essence. Constantly with desire, one observes its manifestations. These two emerge together but differ in name. The unity is said to be the mystery of mysteries, the door to all wonders. Chapter 2. When the world knows beauty as beauty, ugliness arises. When it knows good as good, evil arises. Thus being and non-being produce each other. Difficult and easy bring about each other. Long and short reveal each other. High and low support each other. Music and voice harmonize each other. Front and back follow each other. Therefore the sages manage the work of detached actions. Conduct the teaching of no words. They work with myriad things but do not control. They create but do not possess. They act but do not presume. They succeed but do not dwell on success. It is because they do not dwell on success that it never goes away. Chapter 3. Do not glorify the achievers so the people will not squabble. Do not treasure goods that are hard to obtain so the people will not become thieves. Do not show the desired things so their hearts will not be confused. Thus the governance of the sage empties their hearts, fills their bellies, weakens their ambitions, strengthens their bones. Let the people have no cunning and no greed so those who scheme will not dare to meddle. Act without contrivance and nothing will be beyond control. Chapter 4. The Tao is empty when utilized. It is not filled up so deep. It seems to be the source of all things. It blunts the sharpness, unravels the knots, dims the glare, mixes the dusts. So indistinct. It seems to exist. I do not know whose offspring it is. Its image is the predecessor of the emperor. Chapter 5. Heaven and earth are impartial. They regard myriad things as straw dogs. The sages are impartial. They regard people as straw dogs. The space between heaven and earth, is it not like a bellows? Empty, and yet never exhausted. It moves, and produces more. Too many words hasten failure. Cannot compare to keeping to the void. Chapter 6. The valley spirit, and dying, is called the mystic female. The gate of the mystic female is called the root of heaven and earth. It flows continuously, barely perceptible. Utilize it, it is never exhausted. Chapter 7. Heaven and earth are everlasting. The reason heaven and earth can last forever is that they do not exist for themselves, thus they can last forever. Therefore the sages place themselves last but end up in front or outside of themselves and yet survive. Is it not due to their selflessness? That is how they can achieve their own goals. Chapter 8. The highest goodness resembles water. Water greatly benefits myriad things without contention. It stays in places that people dislike. Therefore it is similar to the Tao. Dwelling with the right location, feeling with great depth, giving with great kindness, speaking with great integrity, governing with great administration, handling with great capability, moving with great timing. Because it does not contend, it is therefore beyond reproach. Chapter 9. Holding a cup and overfilling it cannot be as good as stopping short. Pounding a blade and sharpening it cannot be kept for long. Gold and jade fill up the room. No one is able to protect them. Wealth and position bring arrogance and leave disasters upon oneself. When achievement is completed, fame is attained. Withdraw oneself. This is the Tao of heaven. Chapter 10. In holding the soul and embracing oneness can one be steadfast, without straying? In concentrating the energy and reaching relaxation can one be like an infant? In cleaning away the worldly view can one be without imperfections? In loving the people and ruling the nation can one be without manipulation? In the heavenly gates opening and closing can one hold to the feminine principle? In understanding clearly all directions can one be without intellectuality? Bearing it, rearing it, bearing without possession, achieving without arrogance, raising without domination, this is called the mystic virtue. Chapter 11. 30 spokes join in one hub. In its emptiness, there is the function of a vehicle. Mix clay to create a container. In its emptiness, there is the function of a container. Cut open doors and windows to create a room. In its emptiness, there is the function of a room. Therefore, that which exists is used to create benefit. That which is empty is used to create functionality. Chapter 12. The 5 colors make one blind. In the eyes the 5 sounds make one deaf. In the ears the 5 flavors make one tasteless. In the mouth, racing and hunting make one wild. In the heart goods that are difficult to acquire make one cause damage. Therefore the sages care for the stomach and not the eyes. That is why they discard the other and take this. Chapter 13. Favor and disgrace make one fearful. The greatest misfortune is the self. What does favor and disgrace make one fearful mean? Favor is high, disgrace is low. Having it makes one fearful, losing it makes one fearful. This is favor and disgrace make one fearful. What does the greatest misfortune is the self mean? The reason I have great misfortune is that I have the self. If I have no self, what misfortune do I have? So one who values the self, as the world can be given the world. One who loves the self, as the world can be entrusted with the world. Chapter 14. Look at it, it cannot be seen, it is called colorless. Listen to it, it cannot be heard, it is called noiseless. Reach for it, it cannot be held, it is called formless. These three cannot be completely unraveled, so they are combined into one. Above it, not bright; below it, not dark; continuing endlessly, cannot be named. It returns back into nothingness. Thus it is called the form of the formless, the image of the imageless. This is called enigmatic. Confront it, its front cannot be seen. Follow it, its back cannot be seen. Wield the Tao of the ancients to manage the existence of today. One can know the ancient beginning. It is called the Tao axiom. Chapter 15. The Tao masters of antiquity settle wonders through mystery depths that cannot be discerned, because one cannot discern them. Therefore one is forced to describe the appearance. Hesitant, like crossing a wintry river; cautious, like fearing for neighbors; solemn, like a guest; loose, like ice about to melt; genuine, like plain wood; open, like a valley; opaque, like muddy water. Who can be muddled yet desist in stillness? Gradually become clear. Who can be serene yet persist in motion? Gradually come alive. One who holds this Tao does not wish to be overfilled, because one is not overfilled. Therefore one can preserve and not create anew. Chapter 16. Attain the ultimate emptiness. Hold on to the truest tranquility. The myriad things are all active. I therefore watch their return. Everything flourishes, each returns to its root. Returning to the root is called tranquility. Tranquility is called returning to one's nature. Returning to one's nature is called constancy. Knowing constancy is called clarity. Not knowing constancy, one recklessly causes trouble. Knowing constancy is acceptance. Acceptance is impartiality. Impartiality is sovereign. Sovereign is heaven. Heaven is Tao. Tao is eternal. The self is no more, without danger. Chapter 17. The highest rulers, people do not know they have them. The next level, people love them and praise them. The next level, people fear them. The next level, people despise them. If the ruler's trust is insufficient, have no trust in them. Proceeding calmly, valuing their words. Task accomplished, matter settled. The people all say, we did it naturally. Chapter 18. The great Tao fades away. There is benevolence and justice. Intelligence comes forth. There is great deception. The six relations are not harmonious. There is filial piety and kind affection. The country is in confused chaos. There are loyal ministers. Chapter 19. And sagacity, abandon knowledge. The people benefit 100 times. And benevolence, abandon righteousness. The people return to piety and charity. And cunning, discard profit. Bandits and thieves no longer exist. These three things are superficial and insufficient. Thus this teaching has its place. Show plainness, hold simplicity, reduce selfishness, decrease desires. Chapter 20. Cease learning, no more worries. Respectful response and scornful response. How much is the difference? Goodness and evil, how much do they differ? What the people fear, I cannot be unafraid. So desolate. How limitless it is. The people are excited, as if enjoying a great feast, as if climbing up to the terrace in spring. I alone am quiet and uninvolved, like an infant not yet smiling, so weary, like having no place to return. The people all have surplus, while I alone seem lacking. I have the heart of a fool indeed, and edge so ignorant. Ordinary people are bright, I alone am muddled. Ordinary people are scrutinizing, I alone am obtuse. Such tranquility, like the ocean, such high wind, as if without limits. The people all have goals, and I alone am stubborn and lowly. I alone am different from them and value the nourishing mother. Chapter 21. The appearance of great virtue follows only the Tao. The Tao, as a thing, seems indistinct, seems unclear. So unclear, so indistinct within it there is image. So indistinct, so unclear within it there is substance. So deep, so profound within it there is essence. Its essence is supremely real. Within it there is faith from ancient times to the present. Its name never departs. To observe the source of all things. How do I know the nature of the source? With this. Chapter 22. Yield and remain whole, bend and remain straight, below and become filled, be worn out and become renewed, have little and receive, have much and be confused. Therefore the sages hold to the one as an example for the world without flaunting themselves and edge, and so are seen clearly without presuming themselves and edge, and so are distinguished without praising themselves and edge, and so have merit without boasting about themselves and edge, and so are lasting. because they do not contend, the world cannot contend with them. What the ancients called the one who yields and remains whole, were they speaking empty words? Sincerity becoming whole, and returning to oneself. Chapter 23. Sparse speech is natural, thus strong wind does not last all morning, sudden rain does not last all day. What makes this so? Heaven and earth, even heaven and earth cannot make it last. How can humans? Thus those who follow the Tao are with the Tao, those who follow virtue are with virtue, those who follow loss are with loss, those who are with the Tao is also pleased to have them, those who are with virtue is also pleased to have them, those who are with loss is also pleased to have them, those who do not trust sufficiently, others have no trust in them. Chapter 24. Those who are on tiptoes cannot stand, those who straddle cannot walk, those who flaunt themselves are not clear, those who presume themselves are not distinguished, those who praise themselves have no merit, those who boast about themselves do not last. Those with the Tao call such things leftover food or tumors, they despise them thus. Those who possesses the Tao do not engage in them. Chapter 25. There is something formlessly created, born before heaven and earth, so silent, so ethereal, independent and changeless, circulating and ceaseless, it can be regarded as the mother of the world. I do not know its name identifying it. I call it Tao force to describe it. I call it great. Great means passing. Passing means receding. Receding means returning. Therefore the Tao is great. Heaven is great. Earth is great. The sovereign is also great. There are 4 greats in the universe, and the sovereign occupies one of them. Humans follow the laws of earth. Earth follows the laws of heaven. Heaven follows the laws of Tao. Tao follows the laws of nature. Chapter 26. Heaviness is the root of lightness. Quietness is the master of restlessness. Therefore the sages travel an entire day without leaving the heavy supplies. Even though there are luxurious sights, they are composed and transcend beyond. How can the lords of 10,000 chariots apply themselves lightly to the world? To be light is to lose one's root. To be restless is to lose one's mastery. Chapter 27. Good traveling does not leave tracks. Good speech does not seek faults. Good reckoning does not use counters. Good closure needs no bar and yet cannot be opened. Good knot needs no rope and yet cannot be untied. Therefore sages often save others and so do not abandon anyone. They often save things and so do not abandon anything. This is called following enlightenment. Therefore the good person is the teacher of the bad person. The bad person is the resource of the good person. Those who do not value their teachers and do not love their resources, although intelligent, they are greatly confused. This is called the essential wonder. Chapter 28. Know the masculine, hold to the feminine, be the watercourse of the world. Being the watercourse of the world, the eternal virtue does not depart. Return to the state of the infant. Know the white, hold to the black, be the standard of the world. Being the standard of the world, the eternal virtue does not deviate. Return to the state of the boundless. Know the honor, hold to the humility, be the valley of the world. Being the valley of the world, the eternal virtue shall be sufficient. Return to the state of plain wood. Plain wood splits, then becomes tools. The sages utilize them and then become leaders. Thus the greater whole is undivided. Chapter 29. Those who wish to take the world and control it, I see that they cannot succeed. The world is a sacred instrument. One cannot control it. The one who controls it will fail. The one who grasps it will lose. Because all things either lead or follow, either blow hot or cold, either have strength or weakness, either have ownership or take by force. Therefore the sage eliminates extremes, eliminates excess, eliminates arrogance. Chapter 30. The one who uses the Tao to advise the ruler does not dominate the world with soldiers. Such methods tend to be returned. The place where the troops camp, thistles and thorns grow. Following the great army, there must be an inauspicious year. A good commander achieves result, then stops and does not dare to reach for domination. Achieves result but does not brag. Achieves result but does not flaunt. Achieves result but is not arrogant. Achieves result but only out of necessity. Achieves result but does not dominate. Things become strong and then get old. This is called contrary to the Tao. That which is contrary to the Tao soon ends. Chapter 31. A strong military, a tool of misfortune. All things detest it. Therefore, those who possess the Tao avoid it. Honorable gentlemen, while at home, value the left. When deploying the military, value the right. The military is a tool of misfortune, not the tool of honorable gentlemen. When using it out of necessity, calm detachment should be above all victorious but without glory. Those who glorify are delighting in the killing. Those who delight in killing cannot achieve their ambitions upon the world. Auspicious events favor the left and auspicious events favor the right. The lieutenant general is positioned to the left, the major general is positioned to the right. We say that they are treated as if in a funeral. Those who have been killed should be mourned with sadness. Victory in war should be treated as a funeral. Chapter 32. The Tao, eternally nameless. Its simplicity, although imperceptible, cannot be treated by the world as subservient. If the sovereign can hold on to it, all will follow by themselves. Heaven and earth, together in harmony, will reign sweet to people, will not need to force it, it will adjust by itself. In the beginning, there were names. Names came to exist everywhere. One should know when to stop, knowing when to stop, thus avoiding danger. The existence of the Tao in the world is like streams in the valley into rivers and the ocean. Chapter 33. Those who understand others are intelligent. Those who understand themselves are enlightened. Those who overcome others have strength. Those who overcome themselves are powerful. Those who know contentment are wealthy. Those who proceed vigorously have willpower. Those who do not lose their base endure. Those who die but do not perish have longevity. Chapter 34. The great Tao is like a flood. It can flow to the left or to the right. The myriad things depend on it for life, but it never stops. It achieves its work, but does not take credit. It clothes and feeds myriad things, but does not rule over them. Ever desiring nothing, it can be named insignificant. Myriad things return to it, but it does not rule over them. It can be named great. Even in the end, it does not regard itself as great. That is, how it can achieve its greatness. Chapter 35. Hold the great image. All under heaven will come. They come without harm, in harmonious peace. Music and food, passing travelers stop. The Tao that is spoken out of the mouth is bland and without flavor. Look at it, it cannot be seen. Listen to it, it cannot be heard. Use it, it cannot be exhausted. Chapter 36. If one wishes to shrink it, one must first expand it. If one wishes to weaken it, one must first strengthen it. If one wishes to discard it, one must first promote it. If one wishes to seize it, one must first give it. This is called subtle clarity. The soft and weak overcomes the tough, and strong fish cannot leave the depths. The sharp instruments of the state cannot be shown to the people. Chapter 37. The Tao is constant in non-action, yet there is nothing it does not do. If the sovereign can hold on to this, all things shall transform themselves. Transformed, yet wishing to achieve, I shall restrain them with the simplicity of the nameless. The simplicity of the nameless, they shall be without desire. Without desire, using stillness, the world shall steady itself. Ching Virtue Classic, chapters 38 to 81. Chapter 38. High virtue is not virtuous, therefore it has virtue. Low virtue never loses virtue, therefore it has no virtue. High virtue takes no contrived action and acts without agenda. Low virtue takes contrived action and acts with agenda. High benevolence takes contrived action and acts without agenda. High righteousness takes contrived action and acts with agenda. High etiquette takes contrived action and upon encountering no response uses arms to pull others. Therefore, the Tao is lost, and then virtue is lost, and then benevolence is lost, and then righteousness is lost, and then etiquette. Those who have etiquette are a thin shell of loyalty and sincerity and the beginning of chaos. Those with foreknowledge are the flowers of the Tao and the beginning of ignorance. Therefore the great person abides in substance, and does not dwell on the thin shell, abides in the real, and does not dwell on the flower. Thus they discard that and take this. Chapter 39. Those that attain oneness, since ancient times, the sky attained oneness and thus clarity, the earth attained oneness and thus tranquility, the gods attained oneness and thus divinity, the valley attained oneness and thus abundance, the myriad things attained oneness and thus life, the rulers attained oneness and became the standard for the world. These all emerged from oneness. The sky, lacking clarity, would break apart. The earth, lacking tranquility, would erupt. The gods, lacking divinity, would vanish. The valley, lacking abundance, would wither. Myriad things, lacking life, would be extinct. The rulers, lacking standard, would be toppled. Therefore, the honored uses the lowly, as basis the higher uses the lower, as foundation. Thus the rulers call themselves alone, bereft, and unworthy. Is this not using the lowly as basis? Is it not so? Therefore, the ultimate honor is no honor. Do not wish to be shiny like jade, be dull like rocks. Chapter 40. The returning is the movement of the Tao, the weak is the utilization of the Tao. The myriad things of the world are born of being, being is born of non-being. Chapter 41. Higher people hear of the Tao, they diligently practice it. Average people hear of the Tao, they sometimes keep it and sometimes lose it. Lower people hear of the Tao, they laugh loudly at it. If they do not laugh, it would not be the Tao. Therefore a proverb has the following: the clear Tao appears unclear, the advancing Tao appears to retreat, the smooth Tao appears uneven, high virtue appears like a valley, great integrity appears like disgrace, encompassing virtue appears insufficient, building virtue appears inactive, true substance appears inconstant, the great square has no corners, the great vessel is late in completion, the great music is imperceptible in sound, the great image has no form, the Tao is hidden and nameless, yet it is only the Tao that excels in giving and completing everything. Chapter 42. Tao produces 1, 1 produces 2, 2 produce 3, 3 produce myriad things, backed by yin and embracing yang, achieve harmony by integrating their energy. What the people dislike are alone, bereft, and unworthy, but the rulers call themselves with these terms. So with all things appear to take loss but benefit, or receive benefit but lose. What the ancients taught I will also teach, the violent one cannot have a natural death. I will use this as the principle of all teachings. Chapter 43. The softest things of the world override the hardest things of the world. That which has no substance enters into that which has no openings. From this I know the benefits of unattached actions, the teaching without words. The benefits of actions without attachment are rarely matched in the world. Chapter 44. Fame or the self, which is dearer? The self or wealth, which is greater? Gain or loss, which is more painful? Thus excessive love must lead to great spending, excessive hoarding must lead to heavy loss. Knowing contentment avoids disgrace, knowing when to stop avoids danger, thus one can endure indefinitely. Chapter 45. Great perfection seems flawed, its function is without failure. Great fullness seems empty, its function is without exhaustion. Great straightness seems bent. Great skill seems unrefined. Great eloquence seems inarticulate. Movement overcomes cold, stillness overcomes heat. Clear quietness is the standard of the world. Chapter 46. When the world has the Tao, fast horses are retired to till the soil. When the world lacks the Tao, war horses give birth on the battlefield. There is no crime greater than greed, no disaster greater than discontentment, no fault greater than avarice. Thus the satisfaction of contentment is the lasting satisfaction. Chapter 47. Without going out the door, know the world without peering out the window. See the heavenly Tao, the further one goes the less one knows. Therefore the sage knows without going, names without seeing, achieves without striving. Chapter 48. Pursue knowledge, daily gain, pursue Tao, daily loss. Loss and more loss until one reaches an attached action with an attached action. There is nothing one cannot do. Take the world by constantly applying non-interference. The one who interferes is not qualified to take the world. Chapter 49. The sages have no constant mind, they take the mind of the people as their mind. Those who are good, I am good to them. Those who are not good, I am also good to them. Thus the virtue of goodness. Those who believe, I believe them. Those who do not believe, I also believe them. Thus the virtue of belief. The sages live in the world, they cautiously merge their mind for the world. The people all pay attention with their ears and eyes. The sages care for them as children. Chapter 50. Coming into life, entering death. The followers of life, 3 in 10. The followers of death, 3 in 10. Those whose lives are moved toward death also 3 in 10. Why? Because they live lives of excess. I've heard of those who are good at cultivating life traveling on the road. They do not encounter rhinos or tigers entering into an army. They are not harmed by weapons. Rhinos have nowhere to thrust their horns. Tigers have nowhere to clasp their claws. Soldiers have nowhere to lodge their blades. Why? Because they have no place for death. Chapter 51. Tao produces them, virtue raises them, things shape them, forces perfect them. Therefore all things respect the Tao and value virtue. The respect for Tao, the value of virtue not due to command but to constant nature. Thus Tao produces them, virtue raises them, grows them, educates them, perfects them, matures them, nurtures them, protects them. Produces but does not possess, acts but does not flaunt, nurtures but does not dominate. This is called mystic virtue. Chapter 52. The world has a beginning, we regard it as the mother of the world. Having its mother we can know her children, knowing her children, still holding on to the mother, live without danger all through life. Close the mouth, shut the doors, live without toil all through life. Open the mouth, meddle in the affairs, live without salvation all through life. Seeing details is called clarity, holding on to the soft is called strength. Utilize the light, return to the clarity, leaving no disasters for the self. This is called practicing constancy. Chapter 53. If I have a little knowledge walking on the great Tao, I fear only to deviate from it. The great Tao is broad and plain, but people like the side paths. The courts are corrupt, the fields are barren, the warehouses are empty. Officials wear fineries, carry sharp swords, fill upon drinks and food, acquire excessive wealth. This is called robbery, it is not the Tao. Chapter 54. That which is well established cannot be uprooted, that which is strongly held cannot be taken, the descendants will commemorate it forever. Cultivate it in yourself, its virtue shall be true, cultivate it in the family, its virtue shall be abundant, cultivate it in the community, its virtue shall be lasting, cultivate it in the country, its virtue shall be prosperous, cultivate it in the world, its virtue shall be widespread. Therefore observe others with yourself, observe other families with your family, observe other communities with your community, observe other countries with your country, observe the world with the world. With what do I know the world? With this. Chapter 55. Those who hold an abundance of virtue are similar to newborn infants. Poisonous insects do not sting them, wild beasts do not claw them, birds of prey do not attack them, their bones are weak, tendons are soft but their grasp is firm, they do not know of sexual union but can manifest arousal due to the optimum of essence, they can cry the whole day and yet not be hoarse due to the optimum of harmony. Knowing harmony is said to be constancy, knowing constancy is said to be clarity. Excessive vitality is said to be inauspicious mind, overusing energy is said to be aggressive, things become strong and then grow old, this is called contrary to the Tao. That which is contrary to the Tao will soon perish. Chapter 56. Those who know do not talk, those who talk do not know. Close the mouth, shut the doors, blunt the sharpness, unravel the knot, skin the glare, mix the dust, this is called mystic oneness. They cannot obtain this and be closer, they cannot obtain this and be distant, they cannot obtain this and be benefited, they cannot obtain this and be harmed, they cannot obtain this and be valued, they cannot obtain this and be degraded, therefore they become honored by the world. Chapter 57. Govern a country with upright integrity, deploy the military with surprise tactics, take the world with non-interference. How do I know this is so? With the following. When there are many restrictions in the world, the people become more impoverished. When people have many sharp weapons, the country becomes more chaotic. When people have many clever tricks, more strange things occur. The more laws are posted, the more robbers and thieves there are. Therefore the sage says, I take an attached action, and the people transform themselves. I prefer quiet, and the people right themselves. I do not interfere, and the people enrich themselves. I have no desires, and the people simplify themselves. Chapter 58. When governing is lackluster, the people are simple and honest. When governing is scrutinizing, the people are shrewd and crafty. Misfortune is what fortune depends upon. Fortune is where misfortune hides beneath. Who knows their ultimate end? They have no determined outcome. Rightness reverts to become strange, goodness reverts to become wicked. The confusion of people has lasted many long days. Therefore the sages are righteous without being scathing, incorruptible without being piercing, straightforward without being ruthless, illuminated without being flashy. Chapter 59. In governing people and serving heaven, there is nothing like conservation. Only with conservation is it called submitting early. Submitting early is called emphasis on accumulating virtues. Accumulating virtues means there is nothing one cannot overcome. When there is nothing that one cannot overcome, one's limits are unknown. The limitations being unknown, one can possess sovereignty with this mother principle of power. One can be everlasting. This is called deep roots and firm foundation, the Tao of longevity and lasting vision. Chapter 60. Ruling a large country is like cooking a small fish, using the Tao to manage the world. Its demons have no power. Not only do its demons have no power, its gods do not harm people. Not only do its gods not harm people, the sages also do not harm people. They both do no harm to one another, so virtue merges and returns. Chapter 61. The large country is like the lowest river, the converging point of the world, the receptive female of the world. The female always overcomes the male with serenity, using serenity as the lower position. Thus, if the large country is lower than the small country, then it can take the small country. If the small country is lower than the large country, then it can be taken by the large country. Thus one uses the lower position to take, the other uses the lower position to be taken. The large country only wishes to gather and protect people. The small country only wishes to join and serve people so that both obtain what they wish. The larger one should assume the lower position. Chapter 62. The Tao is the wonder of all things, the treasure of the kind person, the protection of the unkind person. Admirable words can win the public's respect. Admirable actions can improve people. Those who are unkind, how can they be abandoned? Therefore, when crowning the emperor and installing the 3 ministers, although there is the offering of jade before 4 horses, none of it can compare to being seated in this Tao. Why did the ancients value this Tao so much? Is it not said that those who seek will find, and those with guilt will not be faulted? Therefore, it is the greatest value in the world. Chapter 63. Act without action, manage without meddling, taste without tasting. Great, small, many, few respond to hatred with virtue. Plan difficult tasks through the simplest tasks, achieve large tasks through the smallest tasks. The difficult tasks of the world must be handled through the simple tasks. The large tasks of the world must be handled through the small tasks. Therefore, sages never attempt great deeds all through life, thus they can achieve greatness. One who makes promises lightly must deserve little trust. One who sees many easy tasks must encounter much difficulty. Therefore, sages regard things as difficult, so they never encounter difficulties all through life. Chapter 64. When it is peaceful, it is easy to maintain. When it shows no signs, it is easy to plan. When it is fragile, it is easy to break. When it is small, it is easy to scatter. Act on it. When it has not yet begun, treat it. When it is not yet chaotic, a tree thick enough to embrace grows from the tiny sapling. A tower of 9 levels starts from the dirt heap. A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. The one who meddles will fail, the one who grasps will lose. Therefore, sages do not meddle and thus do not fail. They do not grasp and thus do not lose. People, in handling affairs, often come close to completion and fail. If they are as careful in the end as the beginning, then they would have no failure. Therefore, sages desire not to desire. They do not value goods that are hard to acquire. They learn to unlearn, to redeem the fault of the people, to assist the nature of all things without daring to meddle. Chapter 65. Those of ancient times who were adept at the Tao used it not to make people brighter but to keep them simple. The difficulty in governing people is due their excessive cleverness. Therefore, using cleverness to govern the state is being a thief of the state. Not using cleverness to govern the state is being a blessing of the state. Know that these two are both standards. Always knowing these standards is called mystic virtue. Mystic virtue, profound, far-reaching. It goes opposite to material things, then it reaches great congruence. Chapter 66. Rivers and oceans can be the kings of 100 valleys because of their goodness in staying low, so they can be the kings of 100 valleys. Thus, if sages wish to be over people, they must speak humbly to them. If they wish to be in front of people, they must place themselves behind them. Thus the sages are positioned above, but the people do not feel burdened. They are positioned in front, but the people do not feel harmed. Thus the world is glad to push them forward without resentment. Because they do not contend, so the world cannot contend with them. Chapter 67. Everyone in the world calls my Tao great, as if it is beyond compare. It is only because of its greatness that it seems beyond compare. If it can be compared, it would already be insignificant long ago. I have 3 treasures, I hold on to them and protect them. The first is called compassion, the second is called conservation, the third is called not daring to be ahead in the world. Compassionate, thus able to have courage. Conserving, thus able to reach widely. Not daring to be ahead in the world, thus able to assume leadership now. If one has courage but discards compassion, reaches widely but discards conservation, goes ahead but discards being behind, then death. If one fights with compassion, then victory; with defense, then security. Heaven shall save them, and with compassion guard them. Chapter 68. The great generals are not warlike. The great warriors do not get angry. Those who are good at defeating enemies do not engage them. Those who are good at managing people lower themselves. It is called the virtue of non-contention. It is called the power of managing people. It is called being harmonious with heaven, the ultimate principle of the ancients. Chapter 69. In using the military, there is a saying, I dare not be the host, but prefer to be the guest. I dare not advance an inch, but prefer to withdraw a foot. This is called marching in formation without formation, raising arms without arms, grappling enemies without enemies, holding weapons without weapons. There is no greater disaster than to underestimate the enemy. Underestimating the enemy almost made me lose my treasures. So, when evenly matched armies meet, the side that is compassionate shall win. Chapter 70. My words are easy to understand, easy to practice. The world cannot understand, cannot practice. My words have basis, my actions have principle. People do not understand this, therefore they do not understand me. Those who understand me are few, thus I am highly valued. Therefore the sage wears plain clothes but holds jade. Chapter 71. To know that you do not know is highest. To not know but think you know is flawed. Only when one recognizes the fault, as a fault can one be without fault. The sages are without fault, because they recognize the fault, as a fault, that is, why they are without fault. Chapter 72. When people no longer fear force, they bring about greater force. Do not limit their place, do not reject their livelihood, because the ruler does not reject them, therefore they do not reject the ruler. Therefore the sages know themselves but do not glorify themselves, respect themselves but do not praise themselves, thus they discard that and take this. Chapter 73. The bold in daring will be killed, the bold in not daring will survive. Of these two, one may benefit, the other may harm, the one hated by heaven and edge, who knows the reason. Even the sages still find this difficult. The Tao of heaven does not contend and yet excels in winning, does not speak and yet excels in responding, is not summoned and yet comes on its own, is unhurried and yet excels in planning. The heavenly net is vast loose, and yet does not let anything slip through. Chapter 74. People do not fear death. How can they be threatened with death? If people are made to constantly fear death, then those who acted lawfully I can capture and kill them. Who would dare? There exists a master executioner that kills. If we substitute for the master executioner to kill, it is like substituting for the great carpenter to cut. Those who substitute for the great carpenter to cut, it is rare that they do not hurt their own hands. Chapter 75. The people's hunger is due to the excess of their rulers' taxation, so they starve. The people's difficulty in being governed is due to the meddling of their rulers, so they are difficult to govern. The people's disregard for death is due to the glut in their rulers' pursuit of life, so they disregard death. Therefore those who do not strive for living are better than those who value a living. Chapter 76. While alive, the body is soft and pliant. When dead, it is hard and rigid. All living things, grass and trees, while alive, are soft and supple. When dead, become dry and brittle. Thus that which is hard and stiff is the follower of death, that which is soft and yielding is the follower of life. Therefore, an inflexible army will not win, a strong tree will be cut down. The big and forceful occupy a lowly position, while the soft and pliant occupy a higher place. Chapter 77. The Tao of heaven is like drawing a bow, lower that which is high, raise that which is low, reduce that which has excess, add to that which is lacking. The Tao of heaven reduces the excessive and adds to the lacking. The Tao of people is not so, it reduces the lacking in order to offer to the excessive. Who can offer their excess to the world? Only those who have the Tao. Therefore sages act without conceit, achieve without claiming credit. They do not wish to display their virtue. Chapter 78. Nothing in the world is softer or weaker than water, yet nothing is better at overcoming the hard and strong. This is because nothing can replace it. That the weak overcomes the strong and the soft overcomes the hard, everybody in the world knows but cannot put into practice. Therefore sages say, the one who accepts the humiliation of the state is called its master. The one who accepts the misfortune of the state becomes king of the world. The truth seems like the opposite. Chapter 79. After settling a great dispute there must be remaining resentments. How can this be considered good? Therefore the sage holds the left part of the contract but does not demand payment from the other person. Those who have virtue hold the contract, those without virtue hold the collections. The heavenly Tao has no favorites, it constantly gives to the kind people. Chapter 80. Small country, few people, let them have many weapons but not use them. Let the people regard death seriously and not migrate far away. Although they have boats and chariots, they have no need to take them. Although they have armors and weapons, they have no need to display them. Let the people return to tying knots and using them, savor their food, admire their clothes, content in their homes, happy in their customs. Neighboring countries see one another, hear the sounds of roosters and dogs from one another. The people, until they grow old and die, do not go back and forth with one another. Chapter 81. True words are not beautiful, beautiful words are not true. Those who are good do not debate, those who debate are not good. Those who know are not broad of knowledge, those who are broad of knowledge do not know. Sages do not accumulate. The more they assist others, the more they possess. The more they give to others, the more they gain. The Tao of heaven benefits and does not harm. The Tao of sages assists and does not contend.